Hey guys, great episode of Buy Black Podcast, the voice of black business, coming up to you soon. Just wanted to jump in with a little bit of housekeeping stuff up front. First of all, this is going to be the second episode we're releasing since we have started doing our Facebook live episodes every single Wednesday night. If you have not yet found me and followed me on Facebook, you're definitely going to want to do that so that you can be a part of the audience and get your questions answered and included along with the show notes for every episode. Do that by finding me on Facebook. I'm GWJONESII. And then, of course, you want to find the Facebook fan page. That is Buy Black Podcast on Facebook. Today's episode is going to be all about Facebook ad campaigns. There will be a lot of show notes as well as a free PDF download that has David's top tips for businesses building their marketing campaigns using Facebook ads. You can find all of that in the show notes at buyblackpodcast.com/David. I've also noticed that there's been a recent spike in our numbers. They're starting to go up, and up. So if you are new to the show or you just haven't done it yet, click the link in the show notes on your podcast app to either subscribe to the show now, or you can download our standalone app directly from the show notes. All right, that's enough of the promotional stuff. Let's go ahead and get into the show.
And you ask them, like, you're selling a product on average. When somebody buys something from you, on average, how much do they spend? And they don't know that. If a person is doing business with your business, what is the lifetime value of a customer to you? They don't know that number either. If you were going to go to Facebook and essentially what we call buy customers, which is what we call cost per acquisition, what is a number that's acceptable to you based on your profit margin? They don't know that number either. So what they're doing is they're going to Facebook, they're spending money on the ad platform, but they haven't determined what we call your KPI, which is your key performance indicators. What are those specific numbers for your business? And then how do you make your campaign operate within those parameters?
Buy Black Podcast, episode 63. Why most Facebook ad campaigns fail and how to make yours profitable with David W. Williams. Welcome to Buy Black, the voice of black business. The only podcast that provides free marketing for growing black companies, education for budding entrepreneurs, and a reliable place for consumers to find and spend money in quality black-owned businesses. I'm your host, Gerald Jones, and if you learned something from this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating or review on iTunes. Ready? Let's get to work. Everybody, welcome back to Buy Black Podcast Live. This is episode number 63, and I am with David Williams. He is the perfect offer expert, and he's going to be talking to us today about Facebook ad campaigns, why most of them fail, how you can make sure that yours don't, and how to make sure that your business is making profits from your ads. Hey, David, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, Jared, I really appreciate you having me on today. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. And I can see we got some folks already jumping into the chat. If you have questions as we go along with this, put those into the chat. We will get to them later on in the show. But first of all, David, I want to hand it over to you. Just tell the folks a little bit about your background and your business, and we will get this thing rolling.
Okay, so my background primarily, how I got into the position I'm at today is I started off as an email marketer, and I was primarily running really big email lists and then selling access to those email lists back to people that had what we called make money online offers. And then for me being in that community, talking to a few people, this was around 2013, 2014, they started talking a lot about Facebook ads because the platform kind of launched in 2012. So then they convinced me that that's kind of where the future was going to be at from a digital marketing standpoint. I transitioned into that particular field, started running offers for myself, using my own money, getting some success, and then decided to go out and to really go to help businesses, but especially black-owned businesses, because a lot of times we're late on digital transitions. We're kind of late on the future of the digital space. And I wanted to kind of make sure that we were really well educated and kind of understand this space before it gets too broad and it gets a little too far out of the gate and we can't catch up to it.
Okay. So talk to me a little bit more about that, because, I mean, the space in and of itself is, it's confusing for a bunch of us who don't have that marketing background. We know what they say about, there's a billion people on Facebook. You can target down to a specific niche. But I know for me personally, I've jumped in and I've tried to use them. I haven't had great effects. So just talk a little bit more about what is it that makes this platform so either powerful or complicated, because I've seen that it can be both.
Yeah, and you're right. It's 100% right. It's a little bit of the both. So what makes it so powerful, if your audience is probably over 25 years old, there's almost a guarantee that they're on Facebook. Now, we all know people that don't get on Facebook at all, but they're doing, the numbers of people on Facebook is so broad. Facebook has what we call unlimited traffic, which means that you can pretty much never exhaust the amount of people that you can get an offer in front of. And that's very rare because most, going back to the day where if you were advertising on a website, there would be a limit to how much traffic was going to that website monthly. So there was a cap on how many people could get exposed to your offer. With Facebook, especially if you're running something national or international, it's almost impossible to exhaust the amount of people that you can get this offer out in front of. So it gives you almost unlimited traffic. The complexity is that you have to kind of learn some basics to do this the right way. But what Facebook has done is made it extremely easy for you to participate in buying Facebook traffic without knowing anything. So they made it seem very easy, but you do have to have a basic education to put yourself in position to be successful.
Okay, awesome. So I just found out from everybody listening in there that they could not hear me, even though you could hear me, but they can hear you. So that's good. And they should be hearing me now. Let me drop in the chat. Fixed. Can y'all hear me? Okay, sweet. So I think that they can hear me now. This is what happens when we do things live and we go forward. So you gave me the background on the platform itself. Let's just jump right in. Talk to us about the skills that you need. I see you go live at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, just giving just the down and dirty knowledge on how to run successful campaigns. But for those of us who are watching this and who are brand new, let's take us through an overview of the whole thing. We'll start with, why do they fail? Why do most Facebook ad campaigns fail?
Okay, so the reason why most Facebook ad campaigns fail, and I've learned this from dealing with a lot of small business owners, the biggest thing is they really don't know their numbers. And so talk to a few prospects over the past 2 to 3 days, and you ask them, like, you're selling a product on average. When somebody buys something from you, on average, how much do they spend? And they don't know that. If a person is doing business with your business, what is the lifetime value of a customer to you? They don't know that number either. If you were going to go to Facebook and essentially what we call buy customers, which is what we call cost per acquisition, what is a number that's acceptable to you based on your profit margin? They don't know that number either. So what they're doing is they're going to Facebook, they're spending money on the ad platform, but they haven't determined what we call your KPI, which is your key performance indicators. What are those specific numbers for your business? And then how do you make your campaign operate within those parameters? And so without establishing that plan before you get on Facebook, you haven't determined how you're going to operate. So whatever Facebook gives you back, you don't know whether or not that's good or bad. So you can't optimize it based on that. So to me, the fundamental reason why campaigns go wrong is they don't know the numbers. The second reason why campaigns go wrong is most businesses don't really understand who they're marketing to. Their customer avatar is very thin. It's very flimsy. It's maybe consists of maybe 2 to 3 demographics. That's about it. There's no psychographic information. And so because they don't know who they're really marketing to, when we now go to creating an offer, the offers are very weak. They're not really powerful. And so the offer doesn't pull. And then what the person will do is blame Facebook instead of blaming themselves because they created that offer. And so when all three of those things are wrong, it doesn't really put you in a good position to be successful, because Facebook is a platform, but it doesn't do the marketing work for you.
Okay. And so, man, you just gave us so much there. You just gave me like 5 different questions that I can ask. We're going to come back to it doesn't do the marketing work for you, because I think a lot of us we are confused about the difference between what marketing is, the science, and advertising, which is kind of the art. But I want to go backwards, and I want to reach out about customer avatar, because that's one of those things that it's so easy for us to skip over. And when somebody says, what is your customer avatar, or what does your target customer look like? We go super broad. My target customer is between 16 and 65. They either own a vehicle or they walk to work, and they definitely purchase food. And it's like, all right, no, that's not who you're going after, right? And so talk to us about the importance of really clearly defining what a customer avatar is, and then how you identify what your customer avatar looks like, and how that plays into your advertising and marketing campaigns.
Yeah, so the customer avatar essentially is like a profile of your ideal customer. And so let me give you an example from a point of reference. Like you had something back in the day that the FBI established called like FBI profiles. And so they said, well, a mass shooter fits a specific profile. And so therefore, when there's a mass shooting incident, they just go to their profile and they can almost identify what this person's going to look like based on the fact that they profiled this particular type of event and who's been involved in that event over the past 40 or 50 years. So the FBI has a customer avatar, really an ideal person that is going to be involved in a mass shooting. In your business, you should look at it from the same perspective, is that I'm doing business with a specific person in the world. They look a certain way. They have a certain attitude about specific things, and you really should try to get as robust as possible. Most people, either they don't know or they don't want to put the work in. They create a very flimsy avatar, and they don't really understand what problem do they solve for that person. So what I always tell a business owner is that if you don't understand, when you're looking at your ideal customer, if you don't understand what they're thinking the first thing they jump out of bed, then you don't know enough about them. And you should continue to try to figure out how to get enough information on that particular person. So when they're coming out of bed in the morning, or when they're going to bed at night, you know what's on their brain. You know what they're thinking about at 3 o'clock in the morning if they can't go to sleep. You know what they're thinking about if there's an event in the world, how that affects their personality, how that affects their psychographic behavior. You have to know these things, because the more you can know, the more information you can have on them, the easier it's going to be to market to them, because you kind of understand how they're going to respond to certain stuff.
Okay. Now, this ties right into a question we got in the chat from Alana. She asks, how do you get the psychographic information? Are there tools you can use for that, or how do you find that information out? How do you figure out what your customer avatar is waking up in the middle of the night in cold sweats thinking about?
Okay, and that's a great question. In 2018, it's way easier than it was 30, 40 years ago. 30, 40 years ago, you had to do like focus groups. You had to do things of that nature and hope people would be honest with you. Now, because we're in the social media age, people are on the internet really telling you how they feel about stuff. And so what you do is you try to figure out where's your ideal customer at on the internet, and all you do is just spy on them. So I eventually want to create an offer to Black women between a specific age and a specific socioeconomic demographic. I spend a lot of time on Lipstick Alley just reading posts, because I know that particular person fits the offer that I eventually want to create. And all I do is read the post and try to understand how do they feel about particular issues, and then how can I create something that can tie into how they feel. So it really comes from you trying to understand, where's my customer avatar at on the internet? Where are they communicating with other people that fit that same avatar? And you sit back and do a lot of observation. It's really just a big observation job. And what a lot of times we do as a business owner is we get so consumed with what we want to do, we don't understand how to really identify what the ideal customer wants and how to give that to them. We get caught up in our own head and our own process.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's back that up a little bit. About a year and 4 months ago, I had an idea, about a year and 6 months ago, I had an idea for a podcast that I thought was going to be a huge hit, because there was nothing else in the market for it. It solved a real problem for, entrepreneurs and business owners in the Black community, being able to connect with each other, be able to connect with customers, things like that. And so, I brought this podcast online thinking that I knew what the community wanted. And it's one of those things where the people who connected with this show absolutely love it. They see the value in it. They're singing its praises, but the audience is very small. Now, even though it's a huge problem that we have in the Black community with our businesses, we talk about it all the time. When you put a product out there and just assume, well, because this is a real problem and I'm coming with a solution, then obviously people are going to jump on my solution. And it's been a year of working through trying to tweak and ask and get feedback to figure out, well, what's the best way to use this platform to connect with people and get them what they want, what they need. I think doing the front end work, like you said, doing the marketing work of finding out where people, what are they talking about? How do they connect with each other? How do they want to have their problem solved? Can save that year's worth of trial and error, if you will. So what what specific advice would you give to a person like me who may have an idea and want to solve a problem for people, but has never gone through that process of finding customers and sitting back and looking for who wouldn't know what to look for, right? Where do we get started?
Okay, so I would say first is just create a basic customer avatar from like a demographic standpoint, and then try to figure out what problem do I think this particular person has, and what do I think that is going to be an appropriate solution for it, and then find out where that person is at on the internet and just sit back and observe it. So you may find a blog where you think your ideal customer hangs out and just observe all the conversation on the blog. And I would say don't even engage them at first. Just sit back and observe them. I learned a lot about people in groups of people by just observing them and never engaging them. Because once I engage them, I almost kind of like intrude into their normal behavior. So it's almost like a science.
It is. It's like an experiment.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what you're doing. You don't want to because you can disturb how they would normally act once you let them know that you're in their environment. So what you want to do is just sit back, observe. Like I learned that orthodontists were really upset over the fact that they were loaning so much money to get out of school, and then they were going into practice and they weren't able to get jobs that were paying a certain amount of money to pay that loan back fast enough. And I learned that just by observing a lot of orthodontists, by going on blogs and just watching the conversation. They kept complaining about it over and over again.
Okay.
So a lot of times that's how you can learn. And what we got to understand is that as Black people, everybody's observing us, and they're learning what we want and how we feel about certain things, and they're understanding how to manipulate us in a lot of different ways by just observing our behavior and observing what we're talking about. And they're doing experiments. Like they will have somebody that is a personality say something. They'll watch everybody react to it, and then they say, okay, that's how they react to this particular statement.
Okay.
And they take that and they go back and they figure out how they can use that to sell products and services to us. And so if you apply it the same way in your business, it works the exact same way. And it's a lot easier because there's so many communities of people now that are easily accessible because of the internet.
Awesome. So just real quick, I want to jump in and just give you a little bit of feedback. I don't know if you're watching the Facebook Live, but in the chat, we just got a comment from Stacy Bynum says, thanks for this. I just started running ads on Facebook. So everything that you're giving is making immediate impact for people. I don't want to take us too far off subject because I know we're digging down into Facebook ads, but I want to pull back real quick to talk about marketing at a larger sense, marketing versus advertising specifically. And I'll give a little bit of kind of my thing, and then I want to hand it over to you. There's a video out there on YouTube from 1954, and it's called Selling to the Negro.
Yes,
and I'm sure you've seen it. But it pinpoints the way that Black buyers feel and act even still today. The insecurities that we have about people trying to lowball us on price, and we want to spend more money to prove that we can afford it. And we're offended when someone tries to move us from the thing we want to a cheaper thing, assuming that we don't have, the money to pay for it. All these things. I mean, it breaks down the psychology of the Black buyer for white companies of the time to get our money. And when you watch that video and then you turn around and you look at these numbers, they come out every couple of years with a new article, right? The Black community has $1.3 trillion in buying power. That's not power. What that really says, because those things come out from the Nielsen Corporation, and Nielsen is all about marketing. Nielsen captures all of the information about what we watch, what we consume, what we buy, and then they turn around and they send out a report to all the companies who want to get our money, and they say, this is exactly how you target these people to get this $1.3 trillion that they have. They do all the marketing work for these big companies, and then the article comes out and we brag about how much money we have that we can spend, and we call it power. But the real power is in that marketing report that Nielsen put out that these companies consume, because they turn around and they start building ad campaigns and marketing campaigns that use those exact strategies, and they get more and more of our money. So I wanted to throw that in because as a lot of us know, marketing and advertising are two different things. Marketing is the science But my wife jumped in and she said, thanks for pointing out there's a difference between the two. So I want to come back to that and hand it to you. Can you break it down for us, kind of why there is a big difference between what is marketing versus what is advertising and kind of where they fit in their respective lanes?
Okay, so to me, and to try to keep it really simple, is I think marketing, like you said, is more of the science, and I think advertising is more like the technical practice. So to me, advertising is me saying that, you know what, I'm going to buy 5 billboard ads, and they're going to run for 30 days in these different places because I feel like my market is in these different places. To me, the marketing is really understanding the audience, building out the avatars, understanding the psychology of the audience, understanding what's motivating people to move forward, understanding what are their desires. It's the really the deep psychological work behind what is making people respond to certain things. And how can we take our products and services and match that to their desires and make them believe that if they purchase our products and services, it's going to get them closer to what they want. And that's what marketing is to me. It's the really deep science of the psychology of an audience, where advertising to me is just the technical stuff of, I'm going to run 5 Facebook ads on Friday for 2 weeks, and it's going to cost this amount of money. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's the difference to me.
Okay. Yeah. So I love that. And I think so the marketing work is what you use to decide how you're going to do your advertising campaign towards your particular customer avatar. So on that same subject, there's something I would love to talk about right now. And guess what? It's my show, so we're going to do it. So this Nike campaign, the Just Do It 30 campaign with Colin Kaepernick. When I first saw the Kaepernick ad, immediately I went back 5 years to Superbowl Dodge commercial. You and me, White, might have already talked about this before on a different call. Did we do that?
You may have.
Yeah. So I went back. Dodge put out a commercial in the 2013 Super Bowl that, to me, is the exact same ad as Nike's Colin Kaepernick ad that they just put out. The only difference is the customer avatar. They use the exact same emotional imagery. They use the exact same very measured emotional words and tone from a highly recognizable voice. And they use only a very teeny tiny bit of product and brand logo placement throughout the commercial, just so you know that it's there, but not to overpower it. And they just connected with people in their heart. And you look at the Nike commercial, and there are people who are brought to tears from watching that commercial. And then there's people who see it, and it's just, well, that's Colin Kaepernick, and so I hate it, and I hate Nike, and blah, blah, blah. Then you watch that Dodge commercial, and there are people who are just drawn to tears by this commercial. And for anybody watching, if you haven't seen it recently, go out to YouTube and just search Dodge Super Bowl 2013 commercial and watch it. It's got the voice of Paul Harvey, who is just an iconic radio personality, and he's reading this poem. There's this imagery of farmers and all these different. It's a powerful thing, but you put the two of those things together, it's the exact same ad, different avatars, and the way that those companies knew to target their people in that way was through the marketing that you talked about. Understanding the psychographic is what you said?
Yes, sir.
Responses and behaviors that people have. So, running my mouth about all of that stuff. I want to get back on target. So we talked about why most Facebook ads fail. Now, let's talk about what it takes to make one profitable. You've done your research. You know that you want to go after a specific avatar, and now you're ready to move from marketing to advertising. How does a person need to set that up so that they can be profitable?
Okay, so the first thing they want to do, so we're going to assume that the numbers of the business work. We understand the avatar, and we have a really compelling offer. The first thing I would do is, and this is something I do normally, is I set up what we call a page post engagement ad. And the reason why I set up a page post engagement ad is because I want to try to get what we call social proof on the ad. And the reason why I want social proof on the ad is because what Facebook will do is and to really want people to understand is that Facebook doesn't see your ad as an ad. It sees it as content. And Facebook will reward you for compelling content. And when I say reward you, what I mean is they will lower your ad cost. So what I normally like to do is take an ad or maybe even several ads. We'll just talk about one ad, use an engagement ad and get what I call social proof. And I call social proof, but I get likes, comments, or shares. The reason why I want that is because I want to use that ad at a later date, but I want Facebook to see that that's compelling content so I can potentially lower the ad cost of the ad. So that's the first thing I do. If that is successful, then I go to the next step where I actually run an ad for a conversion event, whether I'm trying to get leads, I'm trying to get add to carts, or I'm trying to get sales. And then I optimize based on the results of that particular conversion event. So that's a basic two-step process without, us getting into like full-fledged campaigns. But that's a basic two-step process that somebody could use. So they go from engagement, get to social proof, get the engagement, and then take that same ad piece and roll out what we call a conversion event.
Okay, perfect. So let's back up because that's a little bit mid-level. And, so for people who don't understand the difference between the types of ads that you can put on Facebook, because you can ask it, I want you to get me this or that. So let's back up a little bit and talk about just Facebook ad campaigns, specifically, and the different ways that you can set them up to do different things.
Okay. So the first thing you want to know as a business is you want to know what you really desire. What's your outcome? And so this is where we have issues where business owners are not really clear. So I was speaking to a business owner a few weeks ago and she said, well, I want you to run a campaign for me. I want more exposure, and I hope that eventually will lead to sales. And I said, well, if you get exposure and it doesn't get you any sales, are you going to be satisfied with that? She said, no. I said, well, then you probably want sales. You don't want just exposure.
Right.
So as a business owner, you have to decide what is your actual objective. Do you want sales, or are you just trying to get exposure? You're just trying to get your ad in front of a lot of people. What I would start off if I was a beginner is I wouldn't get caught up in all the different objectives. I would look at either getting sales, or I will look at getting engagement, or I look at generating some type of lead. So you have the ability to generate leads where you can build out your own capture pages and people can insert in their email information and give you a lead. Facebook has their own internal lead gen called lead pages, where it's internal, where you don't have to put out your lander, or you can just do an engagement ad, which essentially to me gives you reach because it just goes after people that have a history of engaging with your post. Or you can do a conversion event and I will go straight to either add to carts or sales. So I would keep it amongst those 4 events and not get caught up in the 50 or 60 events that Facebook lets you use, because a lot of times they're not helping you at all.
Okay. And so when you look at it, would you call that the same for people who run, say, an e-commerce business with products? Or a person who's, say, a coach or a consultant who's looking to get clients? Would you give them that same recommendation, or would you modify it for those two different audiences?
I would probably give them the same recommendation, because if we're going e-com, we're primarily trying to get sales. But the issue is that you can't always generate a direct to sale. So sometimes you may have to get the person to go to the website, get familiar with the product, move around the website, and then retarget them at a later date to go them directly to a sale. Because if it's cold traffic, they don't know your offer and they don't know your brand, it's difficult to get them to buy immediately. Okay. So you may want to have them just, go into the store, move around a little bit, get familiar with the brand, and then you can retarget them at a later date to try to drive them to a sale. If you're a coach or consultant, it's going to essentially be the same thing. If no one knows who you are, it's going to be difficult for them to buy something from you immediately. So you may want to do some type of lead gen, get some of their information in exchange for some valuable content, and then through maybe email, follow up with them, and then try to drive them to a sale at a later date through retargeting. Because once they hit your lander, you can pixel them and then retarget them at a later date.
Okay. So there we're talking for folks who aren't familiar with the tech world here when it comes to advertising with Facebook. So with a pixel, it's a script, it's a piece of code that you will embed into your site that basically lets Facebook track when people have come to your page, and then it will send them more information, more advertising, more marketing stuff that is going to lead them back to you. It's going to let them it's going to make it more likely that they're going to see your content again, because as we know, it takes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 impressions sometimes for somebody to take action on it. So this is just a way to make it more likely that people will get those additional impressions of your content, and eventually you're going to click that button. It's the same reason why we all, and by we all, I mean especially me, wonder how I can be having a conversation with my wife away from all things in the house about some shoes, and then I go to my computer and suddenly I'm seeing ads from Aldo or something like that. And it's like, it's the Amazon Echo. Is there something else, right? They're listening to everything, and then they're using that to figure out what to put in front of you to get you to buy it. And that's what remarketing is all about. Before we move on to the next question, actually, no, I've got a good question here. I was going to say, for everybody who's watching, go ahead and drop your questions that you may have into the chat. I've got one more main question over here for David, and then we're going to move into the third segment of the show where we get into your questions. But we do have one right now from Timothy Simpson. He's a business coach and consultant, doing huge help to me on my page and other folks out there. He said, are video ads better converting than only picture ads or no pictures at all?
Okay, so what I forgot the questionaire's name again.
Yes, it's Timothy Simpson. And okay. He says, are video ads better converting than content only, no picture ads?
Okay, so that's a great question. And so what I would tell him this, and I don't want him to think that we're evading the question, is that in this type of advertising, especially digital, there's no such thing, well, let's say marketing, period. There's no such thing as better or worse. It's all going to be based on testing. So what he may want to do is take a percentage of his budget and test video, test still display, and then test another maybe slideshow, and then understand which one is getting him back the best results at that particular time, and then continue to push that one out. I'm a big fan of video, but I've seen in some situations where video really doesn't do well. Because, I'm a fan of video because Facebook optimizes video at a very high level, but I've also seen a situation where video doesn't do well. So what you want to do is figure out what kind of journey do you want to take your prospect on. And if you think video is appropriate for that journey, then use video. But like I said, is because you've established your KPIs before you ever ran the campaign, look at the video in respect to your KPIs. Is a video helping you hit your KPIs? If it is, then you keep going with it. If it's not, then you kill it.
Okay.
And so it's not about, it has to be very pragmatic and very impartial to what type of creative you're using, because it all has to be done on your KPIs. If it's not hitting KPIs, we got to kill it, start over again. We got to kill it and try to modify it, or we just got to kill it and go in a totally different direction. Okay.
Awesome. And so another question I would ask, since everything is about testing, as a young entrepreneur or a small business owner, who wants to test and doesn't want to, throw a lot of money towards advertising campaigns without knowing that they're successful, what would you recommend is, a good minimal amount of money to put into your split testing of your ad campaigns as you're just getting started?
Okay, that's a great question. It's a question I get a lot. Okay, so the reason why Facebook is a bad platform to try to estimate a budget up front is because it's an auction-based platform. So because it's an auction-based platform, you can't really determine what the advertising costs are going to cost you because you don't know who else is inside the auction. So what I tell people all the time is that Facebook ad traffic will always be greater than zero. The ceiling can be $1 million, but the floor is going to always be greater than zero.
Okay.
So what I tell business owners to do, and this is a conversation that we need to start having as Black business owners, is that when you're building your business model, it has to be built to withstand paid marketing. If you build it in a way in which paid marketing will crash it, let's say you run a Facebook ad campaign and you run it for a week and nothing converts, and that essentially puts you in the poorhouse. That's a bad model. So you want to make sure that your pricing and the structure of your business is sufficient to where you're either generating cash flows or you have a cash reserve to where you can spend $1,000 1 month on Facebook ads and nothing happens immediately and it doesn't kill your business. Because the problem with Facebook being an auction is that you never know who else is in the auction. You can't determine how high the price is ever going to go. And so what happens is you put yourself in a position where you're trying to control Facebook, and you're not going to ever be able to be successful at that, especially long term.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Love it. Just got another a statement here from Stacy Bynum. She says, my first ad for my greeting cards got tons of likes, but did not respond to my call to action to purchase. Now, I would think that that goes back to what you said earlier about, getting that engagement on the first end is actually really good. Wait until later to go back and do more of a call to action or a purchase. Don't get frustrated about the fact that people didn't click the first time because they don't know you. They just know they like your stuff, but they don't trust you yet enough to give you their money. Am I answering that question correctly associated with what I've learned from you today?
Yes, you did. And so what she can do is there's a way in Facebook in which she can retarget everybody that engaged with that specific ad. And then she can go back to them and say, hey, you engaged with this particular offer, but you didn't buy. We wanted to get it back in front of you for this specific reason. So like I said before, is a lot of people have this mentality that when they go on Facebook, everything has to be a direct sale. And it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes people have to get familiar with you because a lot of times on Facebook, a lot of the traffic is cold. So they don't even know who you are. So it can be sometimes difficult for them to buy from you immediately. And even if they know who you are, there's only a specific amount of demand in the marketplace at any given time. So a lot of times people, even if they know you and like you, they won't necessarily buy immediately when you want them to buy. They'll buy later on when they're ready, but they won't always buy immediately.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's good. We had another question from Lorenzo. Lorenzo came in and said, when you're generating likes and shares, would you suggest inviting those who show interest in the post into a private page that focuses on your product content? So similar to what you just said, but kind of a little bit more specific. What do you say about that? Do you need to repeat it?
I think that's a good idea to increase engagement. So if you have the time and you want to go back through the comments, and if you can find out the people that I specifically liked or shared, I know you can do it for sharers, but if you can find the people that specifically liked, you can go back to them and try to reach out to them and say, hey, do you want to go into a group where you can follow up? So if you have that time, and maybe if you have a VA to do that level of follow up, I would say go for it. Because anything that you can do to warm that person up to your product or your service is going to always help you long term.
Love it. Love it. All right. So if we have any other questions that come up in the chat, I will get to them here shortly, but I got to get to my questions for David. And David, the first one I want to ask you moving into this last segment is, what is the biggest challenge that you have ever faced and how did you overcome it or what did you learn from it?
Okay. And that's in relation to Facebook ads?
No, it's just in relation to anything business related.
Okay. Business related. Okay. So, as a BOB, it's been very difficult to form like really, really good networking and partnerships with people that can really help grow my business and I can help their business. So I talk to a lot of businesses on a day-to-day level. Most of them, the level of business that they're operating at, they can't afford my services. So, but I want to help BOBs because like I said, as I see where this space is going, and if we don't really get familiar with this space, it's going to be similar to how AdWords is now, to where it's so complicated, it's so expensive, you can't even get in the door. So that's been probably the biggest challenge is trying to deal with BOBs and get them to understand this particular space, but they have to be operating at a level of business where it makes sense for both of us to do business with each other. That's probably been the biggest challenge.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that one. I know, looking at the numbers for us, we have a very high number of businesses that we start. But when it comes to increasing revenue and moving that revenue to a level where we can scale and we can actually afford a budget for a coaching and consultant like what you provide, that's where we struggle. That's where we struggle, definitely. So what are some of the things that you've done to try to overcome that? Have you spread out and gone into kind of a wider client base, or are you segmenting your offers? What are some of the ways you're overcoming it?
So some of the ways I'm overcoming it, you're right. I've had to go to a wider client base. I've had to deal with people outside of, the BOB community, because a lot of them, it's just because of, there's a lot of historical reasons, but it's also because of kind of like, to me, a conditioning and education piece. They kind of understand modeling a little bit better than some of us. And so they don't put a business together that initially won't scale out. I see a lot of businesses from BOBs that they won't scale if you're not going to try to like eventually turn yourself into a Walmart. It just won't work. And then another way in which I've done that is to starting to move more towards the product side, where a person can get some value from what I have to offer, but they don't have to pay that high tier price of me coming in as a consultant or a service provider for their business.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. So next question. This is always a big one for me because I love tools that save me time, money, and energy. I love to automate anything that I can, because I'm one of those, small entrepreneurs who doesn't have a whole lot of money being generated. Creating a platform that, really gives a lot of stuff away. So anything that can save me time, automate some things is great. My favorite tool that I use is, my 10to8.com appointment booking scheduler. It makes me look like a genius most of the time. So I want to ask you, what are your favorite tools that you use in your business to save you time, money, energy, and make you look like a genius?
I would say to me, it'd be it's a graphic tool called Canva. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Yep.
I started using it because, I was using Photoshop, but Photoshop really, if you really look at it, is a professional based program. And so a lot of times the learning curve can be very high. What I liked about Canva is it allowed me to really manipulate photos, make good creatives without having to be like an expert at it. They had a lot of templated stuff, especially for graphics, fonts, things of that nature that allowed me to put together really good creatives without having to spend hours and hours and hours. Cause I was spending a lot of time on Photoshop just trying to get basic stuff together. What Canva allowed me to really be, really effective. Another one is something I know everybody knows about, which is Excel. Excel allows me to track my KPIs, create a certain type of automated rules inside it that are really, really easy for me to use to track campaigns. And so that's something else I like to use. So pretty much those two softwares work, because one of the issues with Facebook is that we've had third-party softwares that can automate certain stuff inside the ad platform. But what Facebook will do is get rid of the API access. So a lot of times if you become dependent upon that, you're going to wake up one day and not have access to it anymore. And then essentially now you just got to start back over from scratch. So I've learned over time to not be dependent upon those type of software, because Facebook, for whatever reason, will give API access and then immediately for no real reason deny the API access at a later time.
Okay. Now, do you recommend sticking with Excel, or do you use Google Spreadsheets at all to try to keep your stuff in the cloud, or do you have a preference one over the other?
I probably have a preference for Excel because that's what I took microcomputing in college, and that's probably what I got really familiar with. So that's probably because it's just a familiarity. I just say whichever one works best for you, I would say go with it. But for my major, I had to take so many like microcomputing classes, which essentially were Excel classes. I just got really familiar with that platform. I don't really like Excel, but I just know how to use it.
Right. Yeah. Well, nobody likes Excel, right? But it's very powerful, and Google Spreadsheets is pretty good. Probably doesn't have as many tools in it as Excel does, but obviously having the cloud, it balances out. I personally, I prefer Excel if I'm going to use spreadsheets. But then I also, I prefer Google Docs if I'm going to do like documents and everything, because I can track them anywhere. So that's a great one. Wonderful. Man, I had another question that came to me as you were talking. It was about, so we've talked about Facebook ads, but just real quick, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Twitter ads, LinkedIn ads, are you full service social media campaigns, or do you really specialize in Facebook?
So we primarily specialize in Facebook, and Facebook also overrides in Instagram.
Okay.
So and the reason why we niche there is because the psychographic behavior of each platform is different. So a person doesn't go on Twitter for the same reason they go on Facebook. They definitely don't go on, YouTube for the same reason they go on LinkedIn. So what I didn't want to do is create a lot of overlap, because how you would offer somebody something on each platform is going to kind of be totally different based on the psychographic attitude of the reason they came on the platform in the first place. So what I tell people all the time is that nobody goes on Facebook to buy anything. So the way you have to present things to people has to be totally different than maybe if you were to do something on YouTube, or maybe if you were to do something on LinkedIn, because their behavior, the reason why they're going into Facebook in the first place, is totally different than the other platforms. So I found a lot of success really focusing and understanding why a person gets on Facebook in the first place, and how to move them a certain way and get a certain response out of them based on their behavior and based on their psychographic mentality.
That is awesome. And that's why you're the perfect offer expert, because you're not going to multiple different platforms. You can help people craft the perfect offer for their Facebook ad campaigns. And with that, let's jump into this final part. Talk to us about Digital Underground Marketing and the offers that you have for folks that are coming out. I know that you've got a couple of them that are hitting the streets right now. So let people know, how they can get in touch with you and what it is that you offer with your company.
Okay, so what we do at Digital Underground Sales and Marketing is that, we're a Facebook ads agency. We also roll into the perfect offer. So first, let's talk about the Facebook ads piece. So if you're a small business owner and you already have offers that are already currently working. So what I mean by that is that you've been able to create offers in your company and you know that they'll pull. And so what I mean by pull is that they can somewhat drive revenue. What we can do is we can take those offers on Facebook and we can expand that revenue. We can increase that revenue by getting them to a bigger audience. And we also can take your current customers or your previous customers and get offers back in front of them so we can increase the lifetime value of your particular business. So our biggest benefit we can do is we can take cold traffic and convert those cold traffic into buyers. And we can take your previous customers and extend the lifetime value of them by getting offers back in front of them. And because we understand the Facebook pixel at a very high level, we can essentially record all that behavior. We can archive all that behavior. And we can learn how to continue to increase the lifetime value of those customers as the years go on. And so I want you to understand that anybody that buys from you can always be valuable to you at a later date. And so we're really good at understanding how to increase that lifetime value, which what you need it as a business, because that's what's going to make your business sustainable long term.
Love it.
Okay. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Please. You got more. I'm here to listen.
So from the perfect offer standpoint, one thing we found out by speaking to a lot of business owners who want to come to me for Facebook ads traffic is I found out that they really were not positioned properly for Facebook ads. They were making some money, but they had very weak offers. And so the reason why I created the perfect offer is it allowed them to create a process where we understand who the ideal customer is. We understand the problems of the ideal customer. And I teach them a process to create really, really powerful offers. And we keep working till that offer becomes perfect. And then once the offer becomes perfect, it gives you the ability to really blow up your revenue and to also extend that lifetime value of a customer. And I can show you how to do that using organic traffic. And then eventually we can move into the Facebook side. And the reason why I had to develop that is because a lot of people came to me for Facebook ads, but they weren't having any success in their offers. And I had to explain to them that if we put a bad offer on Facebook, it's not going to change just because it's on Facebook. And so that's what we had to do. So that's why I created that. And I've had a lot of success with business owners and just told them as you continue to build out organically, then just reach out to me and we can do it on the Facebook side.
Love it. Love it. And when we get done, you and me, I'm going to have to get you connected with Darren Marion. He's a guy that I've worked with, got my SEO right for the BuyBlackPodcast.com website. So he does a lot of on-page and off-page SEO for websites. And so I know you two could connect with your marketing and retargeting for Facebook ads and him helping people to actually craft and get traffic to their websites. Big things can happen there. So we're going to make that happen. Okay. But the last thing, specifically, what have you got coming up for the folks in the audience? I know that, in the info form, there was an offer 57 that you put in there. So let's talk about that real quick. And then specifically how people can get in touch with you. On the screen, I've got your Facebook and I've got your LinkedIn. Okay. But if you've got email or if you've got a specific, website that you want them to go to for your offers or a discount code for Buy Black listeners, go ahead and throw that stuff to us right now.
Okay. So I think the discount code for this is going to be, I believe, offer 57, if I'm correct. So
yep, that's what I had.
Okay, so this is going to be the Facebook ads for small business. And what it is a foundational course for small business owners that want to learn how to run Facebook ads. And the reason why I created this course is because a lot of people have been coming to me after they bought other people's courses and they still don't know how to run Facebook ads and not able to have any success. And one of the reasons why is because they get caught up in a lot of the technical information. And so just like the question we had from the one young lady where she said that I'm getting a lot of likes, but I'm not getting any sales. That's a foundational issue where you don't kind of understand the marketing process on a foundational level. And so you're caught up in the technical side. And so what we do on Facebook is really not that technical. It's really, really based on foundational principles that are very simple, but the way they can be applied is on an infinite level. So if you buy that course, I'm going to teach you the principles of Facebook ads. I'm going to teach you about creating good offers. I'm going to teach you about really building out really good avatars. And it's going to position you to have success on Facebook kind of at the level that you're going to be at as a small business owner where you don't need to be an expert, but you want to be good enough to get some results. And I price it at a level to where a small business owner can afford it and it's not going to really set them back in business.
Awesome. Awesome. And where do they need to go to get that ad? Is it at dusalesmarketing.com?
No, they can come. So what I would do is just find me on Facebook directly and then I can send them the actual link to the offer. It's on a Gumroad page, but I really
Okay.
kind of want to talk to them first and make sure that I can set their expectations correctly before they buy it, because I want to make sure that they're going to be satisfied with the actual purchase.
Okay. And I'm tagging you in a comment on the video right now. So for anybody who's watching the video live, if you want to connect with David on Facebook, I just dropped a comment in with his Facebook name. Go ahead and click on that. Reach out, shoot him a message, and you guys can connect on getting that Offer 57 discount on the Facebook Ads for Small Businesses course. David, this has been incredible. You've taught me a lot. I know that you've taught the folks out there who are listening live a lot because they've been jumping in the whole time. I don't have enough time to tell you how many people have jumped in and said this is incredible. So thank you so much for bringing this to us. And now I got to ask you that last question that we have for the show. Okay. What is your number one piece of advice for the Buy Black podcast listening community as a whole?
Okay, and that's just in business in general?
Yeah, that's business in general, or life in general, or as a community in general. It is completely up to you. That's a wide open question.
Okay,
your
so
number one piece of advice.
Number one piece of advice I would have is, as a Black business owner, and I tell this to people all the time, is that you need to start linking up with people and having business conversations. A lot of times we're business owners, but we're not raising our intelligence of business because we're not having conversations every day with people about business. So we're conversating about everything else except that. And one of the ways in which we can help each other out is for us to start really investing a lot of time in really having just business conversations in which we're not trying to sell each other anything, but we're just going to raise each other's level of intelligence about business and start talking about business at a higher level so we can start doing business at a higher level. And I think that's something that a lot of us could benefit from, not just individually, but also collectively.
Agreed. So I love that. And with that, what I'm doing is I'm dropping in another comment that has the Digital Feel Good page on it, because you and I are part of a group that does exactly that. The Digital Feel Good, if you check out our page and our groups, it is headed by Jessica Walker, and we do exactly what David was just talking about. Just a group of professionals with expertise in different areas. We come together once a month and we do kind of a mastermind call and we give each other support. And then we come together the next week and we do a live video chat out to the world, having the same type of conversation we do on our mastermind, but it's open just like this is for people to come in, comment, and ask questions live. So I completely agree. It's so important for us to come together just to help each other grow stronger, grow smarter. And that is it. That is everything for today's episode. We have had, there have been people in and out, but a continuous stream of interaction and feedback from the chat. So David, this was perfect. I know that people are going to be reaching out to you. For folks who are listening right now, live, reach out to David. For those of you who are listening to the podcast as it comes out a month from now, that's right. If you're not on with us live, you don't get this goodness for another month. But reach out to David at dusalesmarketing.com or David W. Williams at Facebook in order for you to get the Offer 57 discount code on that Facebook ad for small businesses. For me over here at Buy Black Podcast, you guys can find me at buyblackpodcast.com. You can also email me any questions that you might have at gerald@buyblackpodcast.com. And you can find the show on every single one of your podcast apps, no matter where you look, Spotify, Google, iTunes, I am there. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. David, thank you for joining me and being our guest. And we will catch you guys in the next episode. We're out.
Appreciate it.
Hey guys, I just wanted to end this show with a very quick, heartfelt thank you to all of you who have been reaching out to me lately and telling me all the things that this show has done for you and how much you appreciate it. I know that our audience is growing. I know that there are so many of you out there, but honestly, a lot of times I just feel like I'm living in a black hole because it's really hard to get feedback. And when I get emails that come in to tell me what the show is doing for you or how you've gotten connected with the show or what you've been able to share with people because of the show, it really means a lot to me. So I just wanted to do a quick shout out to Randall, Linda, Lagelica, Courtney, Brianna, Marjorie, Charmaine specifically, and everybody else who may not have reached out directly to me, but who shares the show with someone else or shares the resources with them, and they end up connecting with me. This has just been a very affirming month of communication coming back to me, and I really, really appreciate it. I encourage you, if you're out there and you haven't reached out to me, if you have questions, or if you're looking for resources or people to network with, that is what I'm all about. And the more that you reach out to me, the more that I know that what I'm doing is helping out here in the community. So continue to do that. Continue to tell other people about the show. Help us continue to grow the platform. But sincerely, thank you so much. And I will catch you guys next week.